Half a day, and welcome to the Guam Congress Building. Good morning, everyone. The Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture is now called to order. Today is Thursday, September 28, 2023, and the time is 9:01 a.m. In compliance with open government law, notice for this public hearing was published in the Guam Daily Post and posted to the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal on Thursday, September 21st, and Tuesday, September 26th. Notices were also sent by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. And this hearing is being live streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. The general rules of conduct are as follows. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chair before speaking and begin by stating their name for record-keeping purposes. In an effort to minimize distractions while someone is testifying, the committee asks those present to please refrain from moving around within the public hearing room. And additionally, we've asked protocol to keep the doors quiet as much as possible. Individuals who are presenting oral testimony are invited to submit written testimony afterwards in order to ensure that their input is accurately transcribed. After testifying, panelists will only be allowed to speak again in direct response to questioning or invitation of a senator who has the floor or at the discretion of the committee chair. After all have testified, senators will be recognized for 5 minutes of questioning of the panel and shall not interrupt any other senator without being recognized by the chair. We may have additional questions at the discretion of the chair. This hearing is to collect testimony, not to debate or to engage in back and forth arguments with the participants. Berating of any of the witnesses will not be allowed. If you ask a question, allow them to answer. Those testifying, please keep your answers direct and to the point. Thank you. So we have one agenda item for today, and that is Bill number 121-37 COR. It is an act to authorize the Port Authority of Guam to enter into a 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. I want to acknowledge the presence of our Legislative Secretary, Senator Amanda Shelton, who is also the sponsor of the bill, and Senator Terlaje. Thank you, colleagues, for being here. So we'll begin. I would like to invite the prime sponsor of the bill, Senator Shelton, to introduce the bill.
Sejus Masi, Madam Speaker. Buenas, good morning, everyone. Thank you for scheduling this public hearing for Bill 121-37, an act to authorize the Port Authority of Guam to enter into a 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. The bill is co-sponsored by Vice Speaker Tina Muña Barnes and Senators Jesse Lujan, Roy Quinata, Dwayne Nicolas, Will Parkinson, and Joseph Augustin. Madam Chair, my office introduced Bill 121-37 at the request of the Board of Directors and Management of the Port Authority of Guam. The Marianas Yacht Club is a nonprofit organization that has historically promoted community interest and participation in the sport of sailing. Founded in 1969, the Marianas Yacht Club provides a safe, well-regulated environment for yachts, catamarans, paddleboards, kayaks, and more. As a contributing member of our island community, the Marianas Yacht Club conducts Red Cross certified sailing instruction programs and other sailing courses for Guam's youth and families, and supports, manages, and hosts major international yacht racing and other competitive sailing events. Madam Chair, Public Law 21-62, which was enacted on November 14, 1991, authorized the Port Authority of Guam to establish an initial 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. The lease agreement expired on November 7, 2021, and the parties continued the lease agreement on a month-to-month basis since that time. If approved, Bill 121-37 authorizes the Port Authority of Guam to establish a new 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. The passage of Bill 121-37 will ensure compliance by the Port Authority of Guam to the requirement of 12 GCA Section 10105, which prohibits the authority from entering into a commercial lease or issue a permit or lease in excess of 5 years, and 21 GCA Section 60112, which prohibits government-owned real property from being sold, leased, subleased, exchanged, or otherwise transferred without the prior approval of a legislator in Guam by duly enacted legislation. With that, Madam Chair, I look forward to the Port Authority of Guam's presentation and the Marianas Yacht Club's testimony today on Bill 121-37 and our discussion this morning, including any amendments which may be needed to move this legislation forward. Sijuos Masi, Madam Chair.
Sijuos Masi, Senator. I'd like to welcome also with us Senator Joanne Brown, our Vice Chair for the committee. Thank you for being here, Senator. All right, so we will invite those who want to testify to please have a seat at the table. There was a fiscal note submitted on this bill from BBMR, and it basically says that based on the rent payable, the fiscal impact to the Port Authority of Guam revenues would be approximately $3,000 over the 30-year term of the lease, which is $100 times 30 years. Legal review from the Legislative Council also suggests that we should look at Section 7 of the lease and whether it directly conflicts with 21 GCA 60112A and whether the lease can be amended to reflect the terms consistent with 21 GCA 60112A. All right, so I'd like to begin with inviting the Port Authority of Guam's General Manager, former Senator Rory Respicio, to testify.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and our Oversight Chair, Senator Shelton, and Senator Brown, and Senator Taitigui. And for the record, Rory Respicio, General Manager of the Port Authority of Guam, and with me is former Judge Jamie Canto, and I've asked him to be with me here since we are dealing with a legal document, and will also be available to answer any questions that you members of your committee or members of the legislature may have. But I do have some written testimony to help walk all of us through the genesis of this legislation, and we thank the sponsors of this bill. Sijuos Masi for the opportunity to provide favorable testimony on behalf of the Port Authority of Guam regarding Bill 121-37, an act to authorize the Port Authority of Guam to enter into a 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. For the record, my name is Rory J. Respicio, General Manager for the Jose de Leon Guerrero Commercial Port. Please allow me the opportunity to provide you and your committee members with information regarding the background of the previous and current lease agreements between Marianas Yacht Club and the Port Authority of Guam. In November 2020, discussions were held with MYC representatives on their desire to enter into a new lease agreement. We also discussed with the Governor of Guam the benefits of a new lease agreement, which she gave her approval to begin negotiations between the Port Authority and MYC. The draft lease we negotiated had the following elements, and we provided all the attachments. We just didn't have a conversation with the Governor of the Board. We actually, at the Board, passed a resolution authorizing me to ask the Governor and have those kinds of formal discussions. And so then we engaged in the negotiations with Council, then Attorney Christine Clavera, and management, and myself. I was part of those negotiations. And so the first thing we wanted to do in the lease agreement, or the draft lease agreement, Madam Speaker, is we wanted to provide a preamble. We wanted this document to reflect what is the Marianas Yacht Club and what do they stand for and what's their purpose. And so in this draft lease agreement, we provided a preamble. The preamble states the Marianas Yacht Club was incorporated as a not-for-profit organization on February 21, 1969, in response to public call of interest for a sailing club that resulted in 114 founding members. Sailboats, sailing regattas, and sailing education subsequently burgeoned, and through the efforts of the Guam Economic Development and Mobile Oil Guam Incorporated, a location for the club in Apple Harbor was established on mobile property on Cabras Island as a temporary site. In 1989, the Marianas Yacht Club relocated to its present site on Sasa Bay under a 30-year lease from the Port Authority of Guam, which established a roadway and utilities for the current clubhouse and storage for boating and racing equipment. The Marianas Yacht Club, through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, established a small boat anchorage within Sasa Bay, maintains Sasa Bay navigational markers, and sets moorings for use by members and visiting yachts. On November 14, 1991, the 21st Guam Legislature enacted Public Law 21-62, which approved the previous lease agreement between the Port Authority and MYC for a 30-year term. The lease expired on November 7, 2021, and has been continued on a month-to-month holdover basis since then. The MYC Commodore at the time, Mr. Tim Amor, notified the Port of their desire to enter into a new lease with the Port on the same property. Currently, the organization has 1,350 continuing members. It has historically promoted community interest and participation in sailing, including conducting Red Cross certified sailing instruction programs open to the people of Guam, emphasizing sailing instruction for the island's youth, supporting and managing major international yacht racing events, and hosting other competitive sailing events. We worked extensively with MYC representatives to negotiate the terms for a similar new lease agreement, and the most notable changes made to the new lease agreement and agreed upon by both parties are: 1, the footprint of the property being leased was adjusted to include additional dry land, but not shore land, equivalent in an area to offset the land washed away by ocean erosion. The total area of the leased property remains the same, approximately 4,000 square meters covered under the old lease. 2, a new preamble at the beginning of the agreement was written to update the history of MYC and its contributions to Guam's sailing community. 3, Section 5, entitled Use, was enhanced to better detail the types of uses MYC is permitted to make of the leased property, including A, the ability to license members of the public to temporarily use the property for recreational purposes, B, ability to fundraise for the purpose of obtaining grants, and C, expressly prohibiting any commercial cargo activity. 4, Section 6, entitled Alterations, Construction, and Replacements, was amended to ensure the Port maintains adequate oversight over any property construction on the property. 5, Section 13, entitled Condemnation, was slightly altered to clarify MYC's rights and obligations in the unlikely event of partial or total government condemnation of the property. 6, Section 16, entitled Attorney Fees and Costs Incurred to Enforce Lease Provisions, was amended to clarify that the Port is not liable for MYC's attorney's fees should MYC prevail in any litigation dispute. 7, Section 17, entitled Compliance with Law, was amended to include language specifying that any failure to comply with all laws and regulations would be reasonable cause to terminate the lease. Section 19, entitled Approvals, was updated to admit the U.S. government as an approval authority to declare the necessity of legislative approval of the lease and to maintain the month-to-month basis of the existing lease until such time of the Guam legislature's approves the new lease agreement. Section 20, entitled Special Requirements, was modified to ensure that AMYC perpetually maintains its nonprofit status and shares its annual, I think this is a ninth amendment to this lease, with the Port. B, that MYC maintains a non-discriminatory inclusion policy toward the public. C, that MYC's rules and regulations, especially those regarding public access, are subject to Port Board approval. And 4, that MYC periodically provides information to the Port regarding its continued compliance with stated purpose, insurance requirements, nonprofit status, Port rules, and other lease obligations. We also commissioned Milo, a real estate appraisal company, to provide its analysis per the requirements of this type of government leases authorized by statute. Based on Milo's review, the site value of the property is $720,000. For fee simple market ground rental rate annually is $57,600, and fee simple market rental rate as improved annually would be $59,220. This is what you spoke about earlier, so we went ahead and did the appraisal. However, the terms provided in the draft lease are mirrored in Public Law 21-61, and any changes to these amounts or terms are better left to this body to make that policy decision. We submit this appraisal as part of my testimony. This draft lease was presented to the Port Authority of Guam's Board of Directors on February 25, 2021's Resolution 2021-03, and then forwarded to the governor, and consequently thereafter, this draft lease is contained in Bill 121-37 and is before this legislature for your deliberation and disposition. Si Diyos masi. Thank you.
Si Diyos masi. Senator Respicio, General Manager of the Port Authority of Guam. And thank you for being here, former Judge Canto, currently the legal counsel for the Port Authority of Guam. Is that correct? All right. I was wondering, before we hear the other testimony, if you don't mind, I asked them to put the map that was attached to the bill up on slides, and if you could just confirm. So this is the map as we received it. It's got the 3 components, but if we could get the blow up of the first component. Next slide. Oh. All right, or put that back up. That's what. All right. I just want everyone who's listening to know where this property is that we're talking about, if you don't mind. Are you able to describe it from this?
That's correct. That's the area.
I know. Can you tell
Yeah.
the public where this is?
It's port property, and it's across the port, around Port Beach area, adjacent to across Port Beach area.
All right, and the lease portion is the triangle section on the bottom,
Correct.
not the road and not any of the adjacent properties,
Correct.
only that
Because
diamond-looking section on the bottom.
Because the frontage is the ocean.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's a next slide. This is a blow-up of the diamond section that's actually being leased. So this is it shows a structure in the middle. It shows adjacent to the ocean, and that is that across from the ocean, that is federal property?
Correct, Madam Speaker, and that structure, for the record, and all those improvements thereof is to the credit of the Marianas Yacht Club over the last 30 years.
All right, thank you. And who is the adjacent landowner?
There's some port property and also Navy property further down.
All right, thank you. So this is for everybody who's listening, this is the 4,000 square meters? 4,000 square meters, subject of the lease.
Correct, but what we talked about in our testimony in this draft lease is they've lost significant frontage, about an acre, due to sea level rising and erosion. And so we are gonna compensate for that with additional property toward the side, still port property.
All right, so does this map reflect that or not yet?
I believe it does.
Okay,
Yeah.
it does. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you so much for that. I'd like to now open the testimony to others who'd like to testify. Please identify yourself for the record.
Good morning, Speaker Terlaje, Senators Shelton, Brown, and Terlaje. My name is Victor Torres. I'm submitting the written and this oral testimony in support of the Bill 121-37. For many years, I've been involved in enjoying sailing as a sport, as a means of on-the-water transportation, and as an enjoyable recreational activity. As a sport, I've represented Guam in numerous events since the 1980s. Such events include, South Pacific Games and Olympic Games, and as well as many other local, regional, and international competitions. The Marianas Yacht Club has been instrumental in developing and training our local athletes for these various competitions and also for organizing and hosting such events. It is currently the home of local efforts to develop youth and young adults for sailing competitions. I have also been a club or board officer positions. I was president of the Bilan Tasi Board Sailors Club, officer of the Guam Sailing Federation for many years, and the Marianas Yacht Club. Presently, I'm just a club member, but I'm here to speak in support of this bill. I've been involved, with the Marianas Yacht Club in organizing sailing instruction for all age groups, community club outreach activities, competitions, and, general maintenance of the club facility and grounds that, that were built by the MYC, the Marianas Yacht Club. Exhibit A of the legislation does a very good job of detailing the various competitive and community events and activities, scholarships, and other benefits that the Marianas Yacht Club has provided to the local and including the regional and international communities, when they come here to Guam, they benefit from the Marianas Yacht Club being the home for these events. The Marianas Yacht Club is a nonprofit organization that has provided valuable benefits to the local community, mainly through volunteer efforts. That it has done so for over 50 years is a testament to the maturity and longevity of the organization. Really, the community derives many benefits from the government supporting the Marianas Yacht Club, and by the Port Authority and this 37th Guam legislature, and eventually and hopefully the governor approving this lease agreement, the community should continue to benefit from this support for the next 30 years. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this testimony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Torres. Mr. Cassidy?
Hi, good morning. What I'd like to do is...
Please state your name first for the record.
My name is Mike Cassidy. I'm the President Commodore of the Marianas Yacht Club. Thank you, Speaker and Senators, for allowing us to provide testimony this morning. We have a member who's not here with us. She's in the States right now, but she she provided written testimony, and she's been a member since 1970. What I'd like to do is read her testimony, if that's possible. It kind of gives everyone a very good high-level view of what the Yacht Club provides to Guam. And here goes. I'll start it off. Buenos Zanhafade, Honorable Speaker and Chair, members of the Community on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture 37th Guam Legislature. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of Bill 121-37, an act to authorize the Port Authority of Guam to enter into a 30-year lease agreement with the Marianas Yacht Club. I am Ginger S. Porter, resident of Guam since 1970. I am member number 237 of the 1,366 past and present members of the Marianas Yacht Club. Forthwith, I provide you with a history of MYC that demonstrates the value the club brings to our community of Guam. In 1969, Marianas Yacht Club organized as a nonprofit organization to promote sailing. Within a year, the club gained sailing rights for everyone in Apra Harbor and secured an initial location for a clubhouse through collaboration with the U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, and Marine Corps, the Port Authority of Guam, Mobil Oil, Guam Economic Development Authority, Office of the Governor, and the Guam Legislature. In 1989, MYC began transitioning the club to port-leased property at its present location within Sasa Bay. There, it established a small boat anchorage designation in Sasa Bay through agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, establishing a mooring area with commitment to maintain all entrance markers and manage the mooring area. 22 mooring blocks and buoys were initially installed. This year, anticipating a stopover of yachts sailing from New Zealand, Marianas Yacht Club replaced some of those locations with 6 new moorings. The improved anchorage, built and set with assistance from community support partner Smithbridge Guam, have strength for a wider range of boats. With the move to Sasa Bay, MYC invested in a permanent clubhouse designed and built by members. Investments across the years and most recently include the acquisition of power boats, engines, sailing craft, moorings for day use, and extended keel boat usage, channel and entrance markers, and boat and equipment storage facilities. In addition, the club provides the maintenance for sailing equipment for member rental and international racing events, entrance road and grounds, house maintenance, and recently completed an upgrade of our kitchen to meet today's standards. Our membership is open to any and all persons, irrespective of race, religion, sex, or national origin, who either own sailing or power boats or who have interest in sailing and boating. MYC is a volunteer-oriented club, consistently averaging 110 to 125 members per year. Membership cost is less than a daily cup of cappuccino. Over the years, the club has welcomed cruising yachts from over 25 different countries and locations with a Hafaday spirit. Guam gains professional and technical expertise annually through the cruising circuit. Out of the average 4 to 8 annual cruising visitors, we gain a portion of them as members who decide to plant their feet and become residents of Guam. Sometimes we get surprise visits, as in last year when we hosted the arrival and temporary stay of Erdin Aruk. Erdin rode alone across the Pacific to Guam, his last stop prior to his final feat, Mount Everest, and the end of his human-powered circumnavigation. MYC annually provides certified sailing instruction for adults and youth. Youth sailing scholarships support sailing classes and camps for youth equipment and partial financial support for their international competition. This year, 45 youth participated in 6 weekly sailing sessions. This October is a target date for initiating sailing adult classes, which is already receiving active interest. As sailing interest builds after the COVID and malware interruption, MYC continues to review the calendar to schedule sailing classes, practice racing clinics, Sunday sailing, the 2024 Guam Japan Goodwill Regatta, and other traditional racing. Our connection with Japanese and youth families is yielding invitations to sail competitively. With Japanese youth, it most recently connected us to sailing with Palau, Japan, for a race for ages 8 to 14 years old. Over the years, MYC has organized and coordinated sailing events that brought visiting sailors, yachtsmen, and families to Guam. The club hosted and organized 2 South Pacific Games sailing events, competed in many and won gold in 3 games. The club also organized an Asia-Pacific Laser Competition Championship with 42 entrants, hosted several Japan to Guam yacht races, and stopover events for 2 Auckland to Fukuoka yacht races, the first of which had 32 countries. Members have competed in 4 Olympic competitions, 3 Youth World Championships, several Japan National Laser Championships, 1 U.S. Women's Championship, and other competition in Japan, Hong Kong, Thailand, and Saipan. MYC continues to maintain active membership in the Guam Sailing Federation. Our annual community events include Challenge Day, initiated in the 1970s, which now introduces the public to experience sailing, and Blues by the Bay, a fundraiser for youth sailing support that is annually enjoyed by over 500 blues music lovers in our community. We also conducted activities commensurate with the National Women's in Sail program, organized and promoted by U.S. Sail. MYC coordinates with several environmental groups, having provided site support to the Micronesian Conservation Coalition Sea Life Adventure Junior Camp, and the Guam Nature Alliance outreach activity where more than 100 persons came to explore the mangroves. MYC facilitated a visit from the French-based Race for Water International team of scientists who conducted a study of ocean plastic within the Marianas chain as a part of their quest to identify the breadth and impact of plastic pollution in oceans around the world. We introduced the Race for Water team to local environmental groups, the Yogi Marine Lab, and hosted Race for Water's presentation on plastic pollution in our oceans to the island's youth. Each year, GCC environmental class field trips utilize our facility to access the mangroves in our area. Our environmental impact in Sasa Bay is minimal. We recycle and, when available, send old used sails to the outer islands through Mario Borja, Sakman Visionary, and others in Saipan. Our members also act as monitors of restricted fishing activity in the Sasa Bay Reserve, reporting observed problems to the Department of Agriculture, Division of Aquatic and Wildlife Resources. We offer facility use agreements for members and other sports organizations for training, meeting events upon availability. In this manner, MYC has annually supported the Youth Triathlon event held by the Guam Triathlon Federation. Our past 30 years has been full of growth and activity that follows our mission. Our accomplishments have grown because we have a home presence in Apra Harbor. I respectfully request your approval of Bill 121-27 for the new lease with the Port Authority of Guam. so that Mariana's Yacht Club may continue in our home base to move forward with another 30 years of community engagement and pursuing our purpose of supporting and promoting sailing and other on-the-water activity. Respectfully submitted, Ginger S. Porter, Secretary, member number 237. So that's Ginger's testimony, which really gives a nice synopsis of what the Yacht Club provides. And basically, I just want to stress that, if you can break it down into three things, we provide moorings and anchorings for visiting sailors that travel throughout our region. They're allowed to pull into Guam, find a place to anchor. They can use our clubhouse to shower, Wi-Fi. They can stay at our facility. They can restock supplies and whatnot, and then they transit through to Japan or other locations on Guam. That's really the primary purpose of the club. We also are heavily engaged in youth or just sailing instruction and education, and focusing on youth instruction is specifically. Promoting sailing on Guam is very key to us. And lastly, we're a location for those who enjoy the sport of sailing, but not necessarily sailing, but the ocean. It's a gathering place. It allows people to get together and talk stories on the weekend and share their interests. The Yacht Club also, I think, serves as a home for many expat families that have made their ways to Guam that don't have family here. And, on all the big holidays, there's some sort of an activity at the Yacht Club for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day. There's always an event there where these people get, it's a gathering place for them to get together as well. So that's kind of what we do, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cassidy. Could I invite, we have three other people signed up, Catherine Gale, Arabella Gale, Nico Flores. If you could find a seat here. There are three available seats. We're still gonna, if you could still make yourself available for questioning, Mr. Torres, yeah. And I guess Mr. Borja, if there's an available seat, if you don't mind, if you're going to testify, Director Borja? Yeah, thank you. All right, so whichever of you wants to go first, Catherine?
Yes, I'll go.
Okay. All of you, please state your name for the record before you begin, okay? Thank you.
Okay. So, Hafaday, and good morning, Speaker Terlaje, Senator Shelton, Senator Brown, and Senator Taidagui. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak to you about the Yacht Club and my experience with the Yacht Club. My name is Kate DeKnight Gale. I'm the immediate past Commodore of the Yacht Club. I have been working very closely with the port on the details of this lease. Unfortunately, I had to step down unexpectedly in the middle of this year due to some health issues, but we have a fantastic Vice Commodore who stepped up and took us through to the end of our lease here. First and foremost, I want to thank and commend the Port Authority of Guam and General Manager Respicio, sitting next to me here, and his team for all of their hard work and support on this lease. It really has been a very positive, collaborative, and supportive relationship that we have with the port. And working with them, both proactively getting into the details to really produce something that is beneficial for our island community. And so I just want to thank again for all of their support and work with us on producing this lease that's up for your consideration. The Mariana's Yacht Club has been a part of my life for my entire life. My father, Charles DeKnight, was one of the founding members of the Yacht Club back in 1969, which also was the year of my birth. So I have been at the club and around the club since an infant, really, because they would take me out the minute they felt comfortable. I was out on the boat with them sailing. It's been a part of the community for these past 54 years, and you've already heard ample testimony on all of the different activities that the club has supported. But critically, it's been, as our current Commodore Cassidy mentioned, a gathering point. It's really a gathering point for the community in the support of sailing and boating. We have no other organization on island that does that, really. We have sailors and things, but a place where people can gather and learn about sailing, just enjoy it, and in doing so, build a love, not for just sailing, but for the ocean, for our island, for its coastline, and has performed that throughout all of these years as a nonprofit, partnering with a variety of organizations on island, Department of Agriculture and all of its outreach, as well as the Olympics, when we were involved with the Olympics, all of the different boating, the triathletes, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, a variety of organizations that have used our club facilities as a base, all free of charge because our purpose is a nonprofit. We're out there just to really build that love of sailing and the ocean. And an absolutely critical component of that, being there accessible for the community, is this lease, because it allows us to function on a nonprofit basis. There's no drive for us to seek any type of means of support other than our membership dues. And our membership dues have not changed since inception. So since 1969, we're still running on the same dues. And that's because, again, the whole purpose of this, it's a nonprofit. It's about building that love, and providing that opportunity for a gathering place for anybody that's interested in this particular activity in our ocean. And the club is accessible to absolutely anybody and everybody who wants to join. We do have the membership fee, but it's the only means of our revenue to keep some things going, such as the club, such as the purchase of boats that everybody can use, as well as funding different initiatives, such as probably our key initiative is sailing instruction for our youth. And we've had thousands of Guam youth participate in our sailing program for decades now. And I've brought a couple of them here. We have Arabella and Nico are going to share their experience, but youth from all over the island, all the different schools, and a critical part of that program is making it very accessible, which it is. It's a minimal fee, and when someone can't even pay the minimal fee, it's for free. It's a scholarship, and that's because we keep all other expenses super low. We have our annual fundraising of the Blues by the Bay, all with that purpose of really just spreading the joy of sailing and being around the ocean. And Guam is an island. It has a very long and strong sailing history, and we just want to be there for those that want to engage in it, because there is no other avenue to learn sailing unless you happen to know somebody with a boat, which is few and far between, or you invest yourself in a boat, which is quite expensive. So we provide that avenue, and we keep that sailing and seafaring spirit up and going. And we continually we're working with, UOG whenever they have interests. We have had students from UOG come and participate in some of our sailing instruction because they want to take it back and work with it through their own ways. But I just wanted to share that, my personal experience. And like Mike said, we have this other component to our club. And what we do in working with the port, we are a point on the island when we have visiting yachts. We have yachts come through every year, several yachts come through every year. Sometimes they can berth with one of our other marinas, such as Agate or Hagåtña, but it's very difficult because if you guys have been to Agate and Hagåtña, it's full. We've got a lot of local artists up. So what do you do when you're a visiting yacht? Where do you go? The only option is to come to the Yacht Club, and we have a very good and productive working relationship with the port to accommodate that. Otherwise, that's something that we need to figure out as an island how to do that if the club's not there. You've got these visitors. So we provide that. As well as it's also a great entry point for people who are new to the island. So we do have a number of members that it's their first time on Guam. They're looking for some way to make a connection. They join the club, they meet people, and the next thing they're out in the community. They've got people that they know now, and they're part of the Guam community, and it's always served that component as well. But again, I thank you so much for having the opportunity to speak here and share a little bit about the club, about its history. And I'd like to have some of our youth sailors share their personal experience with their program.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Gale. I'd like to recognize the presence of Senator Chris Barnett. Thank you, Senator. And we'll proceed. Is it Nico Flores?
Yes, hello. My name is Nico Flores. I'm a student of St. John's. And for me, the Yacht Club is a community club. I have no doubt about that. When I first arrived at the Yacht Club, I knew next to no one. I was a complete stranger, and it was just me. But it wasn't long before I knew each other student in my class, and I was friends with every one of them. I enjoyed it so much that I later returned to the club as an assistant instructor to help the next group of sailors. As a student, I have a constant pileup of homework, and the Yacht Club is community and safety for me. It's where I can go to gather with my friends, to practice, and to relax. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. Ms. Gale?
Hi, my name is Arabella Gale. I'm also a student from St. John's, and the Yacht Club has also been a part of my life. I have very early memories of the Yacht Club when I was a child, and a few years ago I did a class, and recently I've also started back up with classes as a learning of sailing, and also became a youth instructor like Nico. And I like my experience have been very thought-provoking for me, because for a long time I didn't know what I wanted to do. And sailing has given opened a door for me for the opportunities in my life, and it was a very good opportunity for me to be introduced to seafaring ways and expand my love for the ocean. And it's a very great way to meet people, because before like Nico, when I entered the class, I didn't know many people or other fellow learners of sailing. But after the class, I had new friends and new group of people that I could hang out with and share my experiences through sailing. And it's just a great opportunity for the youth to come together to bond over a similar topic, such as sailing. Or if they don't want to sail, they can also go explore the mangroves, as we did when we were children, and it was quite fun. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gale. Are you the ones then that taught the summer program for youth?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. We'll hear from Mr. Borja, and then I'm going to open it up for questions from the senators. So Director Borja.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and senators, for the invitation for my presence and to answer questions from the Senate panel. I think it's more for land management to ask questions, and maybe you can just answer your own question. How many of you have read the 2023 Port Master Plan? You don't have to answer that, but just introspective on that. In general, the Department of Land Management supports public land use for recreational purposes, whether it be in the water or on land, like the firing range or the raceway park, just in the right area and within the statutes provided for their operations. The bill is meant to address the recreational land needs of a certain segment of the Guam community, those in an exclusive club with wind-driven boats as opposed to motor-driven boats. Is the Yacht Club in the Port Master Plan of 2023? Yes, it is. Previous handling of port activities have been actually hands-off by land management and the Guam Land Use Commission because the port seems to be excluded from the Seashore Protection Act by Section 63103C of the Guam Code Annotated, which addresses inclusions of islands in the Seashore Reserve. The section does exclude Cabras Island. Cabras is no longer an island. And what we generally think is the port area, it's Cabras Island previously. But Cabras is no longer an island. It is a peninsula and is serviced by a federal highway. The area where the Yacht Club is not Cabras Island. I repeat, the area where the Yacht Club is in the master plan is not Cabras Island. This is public land, but seems to be planned for an exclusive club catering to its members only. Page 4-90 of the master plan, I quote, "The club provides its members with vessel mooring, parking, a clubhouse, and access to the grounds." Again, its members. Is submerged lands to be used? Does the port have jurisdiction over submerged lands in its charter? A recent law passed directed the jurisdiction of submerged lands to the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, or is it just fast lands? Negotiations for the lease has already settled two important issues. 30 years term, lease rent $100 a year, $3,000 for the lease term, 30 years to the port. Port security and area security is addressed in the master plan. How about island security? Port of entry for visiting yachts? Some yachts travel around the world rather, island to island. This part of the Pacific is known for drug smuggling sea vessels. Remember the cocaine barrels that washed up in Lujan? Will the clubhouse also be a retail outlet? Does the clubhouse have a retail license? Will it sell souvenirs? Will it sell food? Will it have public health inspection clearance? Will anybody be living on the yachts? Does the club's charter and rules and reg allow for that? If so, how is waste processed, treated, and handled? Does it need or will it have EPA clearance? What is the utility situation in the area? Or will it be exempt from those requirements since it is in the master plan and approved by the legislature? By the way, I'm talking about the master plan of March 31, 2023. I don't know if that's been cleared by the legislature. I repeat again, in general, the Department of Land Management highly supports public land use for recreational purposes, whether it be in the water or on land, like the firing range or the raceway park, just in the right area and within the statutes provided for their operations. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Borja. I'd like to recognize the presence of another senator, Senator Roy Quinata. Thank you, Senator, for being here today. All right, I have some questions, but I'm going to allow the sponsor of the bill to begin. Oh, all right. So I'm going to ask some questions then of the panel. Thank you again, all of you, for your testimony. It's been very helpful. All right, I'm going to start with you, Mr. Borja. Can you just clarify what you mean by it's public land? Is it land under the jurisdiction of the port or not? Or are you saying that that is in question?
I would think that port land is public lands.
Okay. All right then. I appreciate that. This is technical, and I just want to clarify before if we report this out. The bill refers in the lease. Well, okay. So the bill is to approve a lease that is attached. All right. So we have the terms, and I want to thank you for that. We have an appraisal this morning. I want to thank you for that. So we have all the information I think that we need, maybe with some of those other questions from Mr. Borja answered, to make a decision. So part of the lease, well, the lease describes the property as a portion of parcel number 1, and then describes the map. And then if we look at the map, that blow-up portion that we put on the screen earlier, the section that is going to be leased is labeled as, where's the map? It's labeled as lot parcel 1-10, and I guess there's another parcel is the road, and another parcel is the adjoining area, which is lot parcel 1-R10. But this, and then on the bottom of the map, when it identifies the map, it's titled lot parcel 1-8, Marianas Yacht Club. And I'd like to formally ask for very clarification from both DLM and the port as to these terms, all right? And that doesn't have to be right now, but I just want to make sure that that's clear. I want to put in the bill what we're supposed to be putting in the bill. Thank you. So for the port, my questions are, the lease requires that they must continue to be, the Marianas Yacht Club must continue to be a nonprofit in good status, or continue its nonprofit status, and that you're going to look at its reports annually. Are the reports that are prepared by the Marianas Yacht Club, do they determine for you whether they are in good standing with the Department of Revenue and Taxation, or is there some other document that would do that for us?
Madam Speaker, I believe the port will determine if they're in good status based on there's good standing with revenue tax.
The port?
The port will determine based on revenue tax determination if they're in good standing.
Okay,
So-
but your lease doesn't require a revenue and taxation
Well, the
determination.
current lease doesn't require that they be in good standing, but this draft lease will require that they be in good standing should this be approved.
Okay, I just don't see that requirement. It requires them to submit to you their report. That's it. So I'm just asking if
Yeah.
you should require something from DRT. That's all.
Okay, then.
I think, so the submission of the annual report is in reference to also, as you know, or...
Ms. Gale, yes.
Yes, sorry, this is Kate Gale. It's aligned to the annual report that is submitted to Rev and Tax too
Yes.
for nonprofits. So it's indicative, it's a current annual report, meaning it's the annual report that
I
is also-
understand.
yeah.
So
Okay.
there is a requirement in the lease that you are going to submit, that the report you submit to DRT, you're also going to submit to the port. And I'm just asking the port, does that tell you whether they're in good standing with DRT or not? It really doesn't. DRT is the only one who can tell you that,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're correct, Madam Speaker. That is in Section 20, but I guess you would clarify that
Yes.
in Section 20.
All right, thank you. And then, okay. The lease allows two things that I especially have questions about. One is it allows assignment of the lease to another nonprofit, right? That this nonprofit, NYC, can assign this lease to another nonprofit. I think that's what our council's pointing out might be in violation of the 601128 that says you can't transfer without legislative approval. So if we approve the lease that allows transfer, that it kind of takes it out of our review. So I would ask that we are approving this lease with this nonprofit, and that a further assignment not be allowed. That would be my personal preference. And then the other part is, so the lease also allows that the property be mortgaged by the nonprofit, and which I have no problem with. However, it says, if there's a default on the mortgage, the mortgagee can be assigned the property if they go through their formal default procedures or foreclosure. They can take assignment in lieu of foreclosure, assignment from a designee, or a new lease as provided herein. And then such mortgagee, sorry, I can't pronounce that, or secured party may assign such interest or lease and shall thereupon be released from all liability. So in other words, if the property's mortgaged and there's a default, that bank or whoever did the mortgage can be assigned after foreclosure, can be assigned the property, or they can foreclose on the property, and they will be able to then assign that interest further. That's, of course, I'm hoping this will never happen, and maybe you've never had this experience at all, but that's what the lease allows for. So I guess I'd ask the port, can we go without that? Or does the MYC foresee a mortgage on this property? You're shaking your heads no. Can you just state it on
We
there?
haven't had a lease in some term, but I think,
So Ms.
Mr.
Gail,
Canto, we haven't had a mortgage. I'm not sure if we've ever. I don't know if we've ever actually had a mortgage.
Mr.
But
Cassidy?
it certainly hasn't been for decades.
Okay.
But I don't believe
Thank
it's
you.
ever.
Mr.
Yeah,
Cassidy?
this is Mike Cassidy. Right now, the board's take is we don't need a mortgage for anything right now. We don't intend on pursuing one, and we'd be, this is my personal opinion, I would be happy without that language in the contract as well, but we'd have to obviously have the board approve it and whatnot, but I think that's not an issue. On all the other issues you brought up as well with regards to assignment as well, I do not see those being sticking points at all. We would really like to just continue the lease as it has been in the past, and we're happy with that.
All right, thank you very much. That puts me at rest. I hope we can maybe make changes to that before we
Yeah, of course,
proceed.
Madam
Thank you.
Speaker. Yeah.
And then I think you clarified my other question regarding erosion, and just I think I read it was actually in the appraisal document submitted this morning where it talks about the erosion and it's a protected area. So I appreciate that. I'm going to follow up on Mr. Director Borja's testimony that this is not under the jurisdiction of the Coastal Management Zone. I did invite them to come here this morning, so I just want to know for my purposes. They regulate all the shores of Guam, and so I just want to see what's going on there. But I do want to point out in the lease that I think this is a continuing provision from the last 30 years, that it says during this lease, lessee shall permit reasonable non-commercial pedestrian access by the public to the beach area within the premises. And then it defines the beach areas as 10 meters from the mean high water mark. But it still allows that MIC can build things such as boat ramps on that area, and that the improvements, they don't necessarily have to give right of access to those improvements. I think that makes sense to me, and I don't have an issue with that. I want the public to know that they still have access to this beach the coastline, and I want to thank you for your continued community development of the sport and the recreation. All right, so can't remember if I have any other questions. I'm going to leave it now. I'll go to Senator Taitigui. Senator Taitigui.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon good morning to my colleagues, and of course those who are testifying. Greatly appreciate it when you come and testify in front of us. It provides us some guidance and of course, answer our questions, so it helps us a little more making a better sound decision on this legislation. I do have a question with the MYC. Were you the ones that created this proposal and then gave it to the port, or was it collaborative effort, or?
So it's basically running off the last one, so our last lease, with some adjustments here and there. The port added in some additional language to ensure that it meets the standards of the port needed in the past 30 years. So it ran off the old one, and then together we worked on this one.
Was there any reason why NYC wanted 30 years instead of the average 5 years, which is given to all lease agreements in the government of Guam?
Just because we planned and we have been and we plan to be just a standing part of the community. We've been in existence for 54 years, and we continue to just exist always. That's the hope. And so a 30-year, it's just a peace of mind, right, as we go along.
Well, usually with a longer lease, it's to provide assurance of, like a bank, if you're making a loan or anything like that, you know, or even improve the facilities, the area of the facilities. And one of the things I've noticed is that in the old contract, there was a requirement of about $100,000 worth of improvements. However, I didn't see it in this new contract. So, and I'm just wondering why. I mean, is there any issue with you going every 5 years with the option to renew every 5 years unless you plan on something?
I think the initial lease, the $100,000 was the club built the clubhouse, so it was vacant land prior to taking on the lease 30 years ago. So they built the clubhouse, which exceeds that value. I mean, I think just as from a long-term planning standpoint, we'd like to see improvements to the facility, possibly a boat ramp or a dock for a small boats or something like that. Those sorts of improvements. And I think with a 5-year lease, it's very difficult to get that sort of commitment. I think just the long-term stability of 30 years just allows you to provide for that strategic planning purpose. It allows that. If you only have a 5-year guarantee, it's very uncertain, I think, and having the 30 years provides that stability.
Do you actually sell, I mean, Mr. Borja actually had some of my questions, you know, do you actually sell food or drinks at the yacht club?
There is a kitchen at the club that we do have, right now it's vacant. The COVID, the typhoon shut everything down. And, but generally we'd like to have a third party operating the kitchen. And with the purpose of providing meals for members at least twice a week, generally on Friday nights and Sundays. And that's the extent of
And will you be
sales.
renting that to that third party?
And it's not for profit as well. I'm sorry?
Will you be renting to that third party? How much will you be making funds?
Well,
you know,
the terms of the
revenue.
lease for that person are rent is free. Power is free. The tenant only has to pay for gas, and with those requirements, they just have to serve food twice a week at within an accepted price range for the membership, and so it's basically a rent-free arrangement for whoever the tenant takes on the lease.
It's not for profit at all. It's to provide a service.
A service
is really what
to
it
them.
comes down to.
Yeah, food service for the members.
Okay, so they would have to go through the whole, you know, public health inspection and everything like that. So has the ones that were there prior to the pandemic or even the pandemic and typhoon, were they
Yes, I believe the yacht club's
inspected?
got
Did they have their
proper
business license?
Yes, so we
had
go
everything?
through every year our sanitary. The license, the club itself holds all the club itself insures and maintains all the licenses, just because we've had them and we just maintain them. And in addition, whoever provides that service, they also have. So the liquor, the sanitation, the business license, all of those.
They're the ones responsible for it. The third party.
We do a dual. It's actually a double up. We have it as a club. We maintain it, just as a club, and the provider also maintains it.
Would you have any issues of having this lease 10 years instead of 30?
Again, we obviously would prefer it for it to be 30 years. You know, that's our but.
But would you, if you, okay, let me put this to the GM. if this lease agreement was rejected by MYC and they decided not to go through with it, what would you do with the property if it's under your jurisdiction?
Well, Senator, I believe that Marianas Yacht Club will take whatever the legislature will give, but I don't think that should be our position, their position either. Certainly, they.
But the question is, oh, sorry.
Well, they're-
These guys are playing with my microphone back there. Yeah, so the question is, again, if they reject it for some reason, what plans do the port have with this property? Will it be used as like open to the public for beach access, or, what would you do with the property?
Well, there are obviously a lot of other uses for that property. In our 2023 master plan, that property is recognized as the activities that currently are being provided for by the Marianas Yacht Club, recognizing the current lease. It could be a yacht club type activity. Everything that they're doing now could be replicated in some other form or fashion.
So it would be open to the public, then you would allow this area to be open to the public for anybody to use, or just have that ability? That was my question.
Okay.
It's very simple,
And I appreciate the question, but every action has an unintended consequence. We know what would the community lose by not having the Marianas Yacht Club there? The services that they provided the community, the safe boating practices, their work complements other parts of what the port provides to our community. And so I hope that answers your question.
No, it didn't really. I
but
just asked
I
you,
need-
what
I need-
would
I
you
need to
do with the property in the event they decide not to? And I'm sorry, Rory, can you just speak up a little bit, because the echo in here is really bad? Maybe I missed it, but in the event they object, the lease is not going through, the question was...
I just don't want you to take me or the port down a slippery slope. I just
Oh,
don't.
I'm not. It's just a very simple question, Ms. Gale, if
The
you could
simple
allow
answer,
him to
then it'll
ask the
be
question.
it could be a beach for the public. That's the
Okay,
simple answer.
so that's what I was trying to allude to. Mrs. Gale, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd actually like to interject a little bit. The Yacht Club has been in Apra Harbor for 54 years. And as I mentioned, my father was one of the founding members. And his role in the founding of the Yacht Club, because he was a retired Air Force officer, and because he was working with the military at the time, he was instrumental in gaining recreational use for Apra Harbor. I don't know if we recall, but Apra Harbor, all of Apra Harbor, was off limits to civilians. And through the efforts of the Yacht Club, that was modified. So we have the Apra Harbor today and its use. Now the location of where the Apra Harbor today is, on that little peninsula in Sasa Bay, is Port Authority. But directly off of it is military restricted Apra Harbor. And we were granted special use. The port was, but for the purpose of the Yacht Club, and I believe in acknowledgement of the history and the role that the Yacht Club has had, given a special, and you can look, if you look on the Apra Harbor map, it's literally carved out of that area. You've got a marine preserve going into the bay, and then you've got this little carved out area going off of the thing into Apra Harbor that says special use granted. This is from the, and then immediately you hit restricted military use, because we are right off of the entrance to Polaris and such. So potentially, as the GM said, it could be open for public, but I believe, considering everything that's going on, that were it to lose, I think there would start to be a big discussion about that little carved off piece for the Yacht Club use. Why shouldn't it all just be restricted? This is how I might perceive it, because already when we do anything in that area, such as we place markers and stuff, we work with the Port Authority, but we also work with the civil engineer, what's it called? The civil engineer, what are those? Army Corps of Engineers, because they control that area.
Thank you.
Ultimately. So I just want to, yes, and why 30 years? Because at least from our perspective, we see ourselves as a member of the community and an institution. We have no intent to go anywhere. We do everything for nonprofit. We survive on membership dues that have been the same since 1969. And as Commodore Cassidy mentioned, all the improvements, including that beautiful clubhouse that we have, were literally constructed by members, meaning pouring the cement in it. Of course, fortunately, we have engineers who can help us out. So, and I acknowledge Mr. Borjar here is saying access, but the club is opened to anybody. Anybody can join. Anybody can have access to the club. And yes, you can open up the area, but it requires maintenance. And that's all that we are asking when we do a little fee is providing maintenance. Without the club, that area won't be maintained, and it's utilized by many in the government, actually. Every day we have the Border Patrol uses our point as a lookout point. The agriculture uses it for helping with Sasa Bay. They inquire with us, have you seen any activity? We constantly are helping them because there is a lot of illegal fishing in the Sasa Bay, and we help them say, oh, we saw lights over there last night or things like that. Anyway, so that's why the 30.
You. Yeah, thank you, Ms.
But
Gill,
just
for that.
bringing clarity to that
no,
particular
actually,
area
you're
of the
repeating
harbor.
most of what you said, but let me finish asking my questions here, okay? And with regard to that, how much do you pay a monthly, I mean, how much do memberships pay? To be a member, how much do they pay?
To be a member is 50, so it's 100 a quarter, $25 a month.
$25 a month for your membership.
For that, and that's for a
is,
family and such.
Yeah, the membership, I mean, the location of that area is a beautiful location, you know, and it's...
It is,
it's,
but may I...
And the port, you know, providing this lease for 30 years at $100 a year, and then still in this lease again, it's charging another $100, you know, a year for this area. And I read the appraisal for it. And if you were to take that appraisal amount, you would be looking more like $4,800 a month, like a $59,000, the highest, you know, for it. So does the MYC, you know, considering time, 30 years is a long time, and of course, you've done good for the community, and hopefully, if this moves forward, you will continue to do that. But for fair market value, you know, like any place that the government is doesn't really have very much property to give away, but at least they can recover some costs. So would MYC have any issues with providing what the fair market value is, which according to the appraisal is about $59,220 a year, instead of just $100 a year? Would you guys be able to?
Not at all. We couldn't. We charge. All in all, our revenues from our membership bring in around $30,000 a year to cover
and
all
costs. And how much do you raise on fundraisers? How about fundraisers?
About
and things
10. About 10.
So about 40,000.
Yeah, 40.
So 40,000.
And you know, with electricity and power and maintenance and equipment, we run to budget basically.
So about 40. So when's the last time you submitted to Rev and Tax your nonprofit expenditures and revenue?
Every year.
Well, what time during the year? I'm not sure.
It's I think we maintain to the April. We don't do a late filing, so it's right along with April.
Can you provide that to this body, to the speaker?
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it if you can provide it to her and send it to her. Email.
May I share something when you're ready? Yeah.
I hope I'm not coming down with something. I do have a couple more questions if I can get them in.
Sure.
Mr. Borja, the property that's leading to this location, as we saw on the screen, it's a long road that gets there. Is this property owned by government of Guam, or is that all federal land?
The road going
Yes.
to this property?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's federal property, so that road is federal property, and if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Gill said she had all these permissions from, utilizing this land. If that is federal land, then at any time, could they actually close that road?
The federal government can
Yeah.
almost always do anything it likes with its
And
property.
as long as there's the property. Okay, just wanted to make sure that, so we really don't have that, right? Mhm. So you did mention the Port Master Plan, Mr. Borja. I do plan on looking at that, and I do apologize. I mean, I'm listening to your testimonies, but, we just received these documents, so it's kind of hard to read through all the, the lease agreement to get a full understanding of what you're requesting for. So I'll make sure I do my due diligence and read this. But there is a question for the GM with regards to any kind of bond borrowing at the port, that this land is incorporated with any kind of requirement or anything like that?
No, it's not, Senator.
So it's not part
It's
of any
not.
kind of your bond borrowing? So
No, it's
almost
not.
considered not port property, right?
No, it is port property, but the revenue attached to that property or the potential revenue attached to that property has not been factored in at all.
At all? Okay. Can it be?
If it's the will of the body to, whatever the will of the body is, then we'd have to act accordingly and respond accordingly.
Okay, just one more question I have here. I know that a lot of them were answered by Mr. Borja, or asked, but okay, we did talk about that. So your income is probably around 40,000, but with additional fundraising, it could actually get a little bit higher. That's good. Oh, the last question, do you charge any fees for any boats docking near the area?
Yes,
And what is that amount you charge?
$7 a day
$7 a day?
from 1969. Because
Okay.
we are all about
Well, considering if
support
the,
and access.
so considering that in the event, we go to fair market value on the cost of this property, this really nice area of property, and it goes up, would you also be increasing your fees for docking fees?
Well, we would like to exist, and so if something happened, we would have to do some consideration, of course, to be able to
Accommodate.
continue to provide our services. But the spirit of the club is to provide access and build love of our sailing environment, our sailing history, our oceans.
Well,
so
nobody's
we're not,
taking that away from you, Mrs.
fair
Gill, at
enough,
all.
but you know, the
I
island and its sailing
understand. I
history.
understand, but that wasn't a question. I
Yeah.
just asked you that one
But
simple
can
thing.
I
Will it
need-
go up? And actually, I would love you to, but
Yeah.
the speaker's looking at me like, please,
Okay.
it's next for another
understand.
senator to
Yes.
ask questions. And other than that, I think I'll just leave it at that because I know my other colleagues have many questions to ask you. So I appreciate your time and being here and all the good work you're doing down there at the Marianas Yacht Club and all those years you've had it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Senator Teitzke. Yeah, I'd ask that we just go one at a time and just respond directly to questions if you are recognized. And Senator Brown, you are recognized.
Well, thank you to Senator Tello for being patient, because I guess your dad's also retired Air Force also. My dad's retired Navy. He spent many years in the harbor down there at Naval Station, being in charge at SRF while he was still in the Navy as well. So I think we all have a collective history. Interesting that here we are, the children of, and here we are today. I do want to ask, and I, yes, have familiarity with the property. I mean, if those of you have not been there, it's a very beautiful piece of property down there. And certainly we recognize the work that has been done by your organization over the years. I do have to state myself, I am looking at this bill in terms of the length of time, and I do realize the original lease agreement was 30 years ago, but I look at things a little differently now, because I look at 30 years into the future, and probably most of us up here will be dust, and the young ones that are here now will be entering the wonderful world of senior citizenship and the aches and pains that come with it. So I might have reservations on the length of time of the agreement. And then also I noticed from your previous agreement, there were specifications that the organization needed to provide in exchange for the lease. I don't see that in the new lease agreement. I think it would be good if you have those things outlined of what services you are. And I know in the past you've outlined what services you provide to the community. You know, your program, especially for the youth. I think that would be good to see. And how do we formalize that so that we can ensure that those type of services will continue to be provided in the future? Because the exchange rate of the value of the property versus the opportunity the port would have to lease this property and receive revenue from it, that's what they're giving up. And that's not a benefit that's going to be passed on to the ratepayers as well, which is the primary mission of the port. So I think we would need to see what those requirements are, because the new agreement does not provide that. The other thing too, I understand that, you know, the organization has been around a long time, but we are not going to be here to do it. You know, in the future, those that run your nonprofit are going to be the ones that will be there to make decisions, and certainly the future legislators will be the ones to do that. So I think it would be very good to outline the specifics of what the exchange rate is, because the value of the property versus what's being given up in terms of potential revenue for the port versus the public service that you're providing is what has to be weighed on our side. And so I just think that would be helpful to do that. Also, you indicate as required in these agreements that an annual report is to be provided to the board. Do you have copies of that for the last 4 or 5 years? Because I have to tell you, as manager for 6 years, I never saw a single report presented to the board during my tenure, and I attended probably except one board meeting because I was off island. Do you have copies of those reports that you can provide?
Yes.
If you can provide that to the chair of the committee, and then she can share that with the rest of us. Those are my main concerns that I have with this. And, you know, I appreciate the fact you haven't raised your rates, but, you know, that's something that has to be looked at in terms of, and so do we, because we understand what you provide, but it is a small segment of the community that benefits from this. That's the reality. Not everyone has the same interest in boating. Not every opportunity will be provided to all residents of Guam. So, I mean, we need to weigh that. How do we weigh giving that up versus what the ultimate benefit could be to more members of the community? So I just want to put those issues. I don't have any questions. I think you've elaborated quite well on the work that you've done and the contributions to the community. And I'm simply also relaying my reservations, the timeline, because you could very easily enter into a 5-year agreement again with the Port Authority without coming to us. The Port Authority has a very bad track record with regards to long-term leases, either approved or not approved by the Guam legislature. And these are leases that are being paid for, to be paid for. So I have a little caution with that, from YTK to Cementon, and the list goes on, of those that unfortunately have chosen to take advantage of the government and the people. And it's cost hundreds of thousands of dollars of ratepayer money to have the port get its assets back or ensure that rent is paid. That's a reality, it's factual, it's not just my opinion. And so I'm very cautious because I see how abuse has happened, in some cases continue to happen. And so I just want to make sure that public assets are used for the benefit of the people to the maximum extent possible, and there's no abuse with regards to that. One other quick question I do have on the public access. Can you clarify where that is? I understand the entrance of the property is actually very limited, just geographically. You have a very narrow entrance into the Yacht Club area. If I was a member from the general public and I wanted to go on the shoreline to the beach side, how would I access that coming into your club area?
So the road comes down to the club.
Yes.
And we have two little fence posts and a gate, and you just walk right around it.
Is there anything there to indicate any signage for the public to know where to go?
It literally, it's just open. You just walk right on the side. The only thing that it's stopping is cars coming in. So anybody
is there something visible? I mean, like we require Tumon hotels.
Sure,
for example,
we don't actually, we don't have anything.
Just to indicate public access, just so, I mean, they're not impeding on your area.
Certainly.
But at the same time, people still know where it's a safe place for them to access. Because again, it's a very narrow entryway, and all you do is you see the clubhouse and the open space there. And you know, if I were there and I didn't know where to go, I wouldn't know where to go.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do a better job of putting signs up and
Just so that
notice that it's open to the public,
Right.
and here's the access point and where to park, and we
And
can,
then
we can
that
do
way,
that. We have no
members of
problem
the
doing
public,
that.
they can go and it doesn't impede on what you're doing and vice versa. They're not impeding on your space. That's a lot of there. Okay, appreciate that if you would add that. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Senator Quinata.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to my colleagues and good morning to those attending live and those who are being panelists this morning. I'm certainly very excited to see younger generations stepping up and providing testimony today. I know you guys should probably took off from school to be here, so I'm very excited to see that there's a younger generation stepping up to, you know, push forward the next 50 years. So with that being said, I forgot your name, sir, Mr. Cassidy? Okay. Did you have any meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers to discuss any land mitigations? Because it seems that you've lost significant real estate due to the rising of global warming, the water. So
No, I'm not aware of any. Kate, do you know of, no.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really support revoking you guys' access to this property. The government of Guam has a very unique situation with public parks currently, and this is a great public-private partnership that can help alleviate some of the government's directives, right? We don't have enough park assistants to be out there cleaning, and if you guys are able to upkeep that area, and you guys have been good tenants and good stewards of the environment, I don't think there's any reason for us to revoke it. I do hear for inflating costs for your rent or your lease there, but you guys are not really trying to make profit. You're there for the members, you're there for the environmental stewardship and to improve the next generation's ability to, you know, go seafaring. Generally the Chamorro culture has always had a pivotal role in seafaring. Our island has always been navigators of the seas, and I think if we can continue to see the next generation having the opportunity to navigate the waters openly and freely, especially with a military-private partnership, it's great. So yeah, I don't want to put that at risk in any way. Uncle Sam can do whatever he wants, definitely. If we remove you, then they're just going to come back and say, oh, well, we need that park for another port wharf or battleship operation. So I really I stand in support of you guys' continued lease, and let me know if my office can support in any endeavor. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Senator Quinata. Before I give it to the sponsor for her closing questions, I just want to follow up on one more question on the lease. That is, so the rent during the term sets it out for $100 per year, but then there's a provision here that says, should an appropriate agency of the United States federal having jurisdiction over the subject matter make a final and binding determination pursuant to certain law that the fair rental value of the premises exceeds the foregoing amount, then the rent payable shall be adjusted. Can you just explain that to us?
Madam Speaker, I'm happy to answer that question. Jamie Canto, port attorney. The deed by the U.S. Navy to the port of that property originally had provisions calling for market value use of the property, so that rentals are aspired to be within fair market values. And given the unique situation that the nonprofit organization like MYC is seeking here, we at least have to inform them that that is a, albeit remote, possibility. And they are entering into the agreement potentially with eyes wide open to that fact and assume the risk that if the Navy were to come in and say, decades later, by the way, we put in our lease, our deed, that there would be fair market value rental use of the property, then they would have to comply and act accordingly, either to increase or cancel the arrangement.
Thank you very much, Attorney Canto. And if you don't mind, if I could just get a copy of that provision of the deed or what you're referring to.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'd be happy to
Appreciate
provide that.
All right. I want to acknowledge we also have written testimony from Captain Simmons of the U.S. Coast Guard, Ginger Porter's testimony that was read aloud by Mr. Cassidy, and from Mayor Alec, the PD mayor, also in support. Now I'll give it to the sponsor, Senator Shelton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, Chair, for this hearing again and for your time. And I want to thank the Yacht Club and the Port for working collaboratively to come to this agreement to continue the services of the Yacht Club for our community. I wanted to ask Ms. Gale, you mentioned that there were scholarships available for those who wanted to be a member and who could not afford the nominal fee, the $100. Is that just for students or for anyone in our community, a family who wanted to
Right.
be a
That's
member?
for our youth and our youth program. Any youth that's interested in sailing, we want to help them. We want to help them get into sailing and grow with that. So.
And as you said, there's nothing stopping anyone from coming into the Yacht Club, from accessing the water through the Yacht Club or the beach side there. Families are welcome at any time to come in. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we have individuals that come down and use the entrance to the Yacht Club for that purpose.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. And I know that you also have other activities throughout the year that you host, concerts and other festivities down there, and those are all also open to the public.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so we do, and we do outreach every year, opening up in terms of having all our boats out, anybody who wants to at least try, and hopefully then they get a bug and they want to come back and learn to sail. And I know I've mentioned it before, but we do really provide a role for all of the community and the government of Guam and the agencies that need to keep a look on that area, because we maintain access, even though it's not our land and anything like that, but that long road, we maintain it and keep it very accessible. And so Department of Agriculture every year has programs. Department of Education brings field trips down every year to go to the mangroves. Border Patrol uses that. We have officers down always, because that's a preserve, you're not supposed to be fishing in that area, they're always down. So it really serves this role for sailing, but also just that area and that preserve and that mangrove area.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Cassidy, you mentioned that there might be some improvements to the property in the future, such as boat ramps and other things that could make access easier. Can you discuss that a little bit? Because there was mentioned that there's no foreseeing the need of mortgages in the future. How would you pay for those improvements if you are using up to your nonprofit organization's income every year, budgeting
A lot of it's
those
donations
dollars?
or grants, applications, or something like that. But generally, donations is where we get a lot of our stuff. Earlier this year, we installed 6 moorings, which are basically anchors that are tied to the bottom of the ocean, and it's got a buoy on top that boats can park safely. Smithbridge, Guam, we were very fortunate in that they had a federal project going on in the harbor, and we piggybacked on their time, and we were able to get 6 moorings. But in order to do that privately, hiring out their barge and whatnot would have cost almost $100,000. But we were able to get them to just add ours along with work that they were doing and do it for us as well. So they donated that, and that's how we get a lot of our stuff done, is via donations like that and whatnot with private groups.
Okay, I'm sure you have many other stories and examples of that, but
Yes.
it's safe for us to say that partners in our community, business people, private donors see the value that you bring to those in the community of boating, and a wider net that they feel
And they do,
inclined to donate.
I believe it's all through the spirit of camaraderie in the ocean that the facility allows. So, you know, it's an area where we want to make it accessible to all people, businesses, to be able to come together and discuss the ocean, you know, and so.
And I just wanted to clarify a point. So it was asked about our uses, and I did want to just clarify in section 5 of the lease, it lists all the different uses that we can have, and it adds. And during our discussion with the port and with the lease, we had asked if there is any financial support from the port, because we are a nonprofit. Our intent is to stay. We're not trying to use any advantage of this property other than as a service to the community. But things are costly. Like I said, we maintain that road. We do the buoys, and so we asked for even like, you know, up to just $100,000 over the course of the lease to help maintain, but that wasn't possible. And so we have our different uses listed in here, including the one key component for us is the added opportunity for grants. So to Senator Taidui's point, we want to really keep our membership ability and our services as accessible as possible. I mean, we'd give everything for free if we could. It's the love of the thing, but we do need service, you know, funding in different ways, and so we do have that within the lease now, and it was part of our discussion with the port. And one other key point I did want to clarify in reference to Mr. Borja's statement, and it goes to the collaborative nature with the port, is that service that we do provide as an entry point, as a controlled entry point. We are in direct access with the harbor master, and so whenever the harbor master spots a yacht coming into the port, we immediately start a dialogue, and usually per our website and per our communication with expected incoming yachts, there's a whole protocol to ensure that border and protection are there, agriculture is there, and they go through all of the process before accessing out of our confined area. So it is quite controlled, and that all of these things are followed. There's no difference, EPA, all of those things, than what's happening with Agate Marina or Agana Marina. So it's under the same protocol as any other entry point for our island.
Okay, good to know that we're addressing those safety concerns. I wanted to ask also, you mentioned that there's a $7 a day docking fee that you have, and so are there people living on their boats in the area?
On a temporary basis, and that is all within the knowledge of the harbor master. So like I said, we have a direct communication. He has all of the information of all of those yachts that come in, as well as EPA. EPA actually visits and comes out, and they always go around to make sure that everything's being followed exactly as they do with the other berthing spots, so the Harbor of Refuge, Agate Marina, and Agana.
Okay, so on a temporary basis, meaning not more than 30 days?
Usually, well, that's the plan, but sometimes it extends. We are, we're out here, and so what happens oftentimes is we're a rescue point. And so yachts that are crossing the Pacific, it's a challenge, as we might imagine, and all of the yachts that we have with us right now are under service because they've had a breakdown component in their travels. So thank goodness that Guam is here to catch them, but that's generally what it is.
And is that $7 a day comparable to the Agate Marina and the Agana Marina? Are you familiar?
Oh, I'm not sure what but they have they have a different service component because they're Atlanta line. So they have they provide different services. Specifically, you can berth right up slips.
I think it's like $100 to
moorings.
$150 a month at Agate. I have a slip there, and it's $115 or $135 a month. So it's a little less than that. You know, it's very affordable for the sailor coming in, the cruiser.
They're talking
$200,
about
yeah, a little more.
seasonal visitors.
Yeah, it's actually about the same because if somebody was there for 30 days, it would be over $200. So it's meant for on a really temporary. It's not as the same quite as the others. Yeah, so like Erden, who is rowing across the thing and such.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. For the record, could you just state your names one more time for the transcription?
Sure. Kate Gale, immediate past Commodore.
And I'm Mike Cassidy, the current Commodore of the Yacht Club.
Thank you. Those are all my questions for the day, and I really appreciate the conversation we've had here and the time that you took out to be here, especially our younger members, Mr. Borja, Mr. Canto, GM Respicio, Senator, thank you for being here today. I look forward to the recommendations that were made, if we can address some of the concerns to help us move this bill forward. And thank you again, Speaker, Madam Chair, for your time.
Thank you, Senator. If the port, could you clarify, is this part of Cabras Island, this parcel?
You know, I'm going to just defer to the Director of Land Management, Mr. Borja, not only because he's Director of Land Management, but because he has institutional knowledge. But I don't know if that really matters other than what's in the name.
Only that
there's been
the
some,
Seashore Protection Act,
yeah, there's some,
there's an exemption for Cabras Island, so
Yeah.
I just want to know.
well, there's
your
some reference
interpretation.
to the port as Cabras Island, and now he's saying it's a federal highway. I was always of the understanding that the port is Cabras Island, and you have tenants of Cabras Island, and this is part of Cabras
All right.
Island.
If you could just maybe
Yeah, I
clarify
will.
for me how you refer to it in your master plan and
Okay.
how you refer to this property in your master plan.
Yeah, we will, Madam Speaker.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, there being no further testimony, the committee will continue to accept written testimony on this bill, Bill 121-37 COR, for the next 5 working days until October 5th, 2023. Your testimony can be emailed to Senator Terlaje Guam at gmail.com or hand-delivered here to the Congress building, addressed to me. And this public hearing is now adjourned. The time is 10:48. No, sorry. It's almost 10:45. And Sizos Masi again to all of you who came to testify, very much appreciate it. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you.